Hello, class. Last week I spoke about some of the findings in the documentary Inside Job. I talked about some of the concerns raised in the video, like the government not only failing to regulate the financial industry, but aiding it to crash the market. I also spoke about how the banks, since the 50s, have grown much larger and more powerful than previously, yet regulation has dramatically decreased. Issues of heavy lobbying and crony capitalism by the financial industry were raised as serious issues to our political system. I myself am a political science and history major. I have always been interested in the political economy and how macroeconomic policies affect the daily lives of people in society. Today I will try to persuade you to watch the documentary Inside Job. This is an Oscar-winning piece directed by Charles Ferguson and narrated by Matt Damon. I think the 2008 global financial crisis is a great case study to understand how our political system works, and I believe that it is particularly relevant to us at this time, especially during the pandemic. So far, for the massive corporations, have been the ones that benefited the most from the pandemic, while the poor and middle class are struggling to get by. The government again fails to create policies that help the bottom 50%, while big corporations are benefiting from the stimulus package. A new stimulus package continues to be lacking in Congress even after the first one. Most Americans agree that they need more stimulus, and for many, it isn't about stimulus, it's actually about economic aid just to keep them afloat. I will give three reasons why Baruch students should watch this important piece of work. The first is the need to see the truth of how our institution truly functions in the sense of our political system, our banking system, and even our academics, elite colleges and universities aiding and abetting this corrupt system. So the bank spends $96 million lobbying the government in just 2 years, from 2016 to 2018. And from the 1940s to the 1980s, the US government closely regulated the financial sector. However, as the financial industry began to consolidate into a small group of massive firms, their power grew enormously. They had concentrated into a small group of powerful banks that could pour money to lobby the government and help elect members of Congress and even presidents by donating millions to their campaigns. The documentary also illustrated how elite universities were writing textbooks and economic theories on behalf of large financial institutions. Many professors from elite colleges and universities get consulting fees that pay multiple times more than their annual salaries. They were paid to convince and reassure the public and the government that the behavior of the bank was safe, and the 2008 financial crisis was looming in the corner before it exploded, and these academics were still writing about how safe the system was. The director, Charles Ferguson, also wrote in The Guardian about Glenn Hubert. This is a picture of Glenn Hubert, who was part of the George W. Bush administration. And I quote, Glenn Hubert became Dean of Columbia Business School in 2004, shortly after leaving the George W. Bush administration. Much of his academic work has been focused on tax policy. A fair summary is that he has never seen a tax he would like. In November 2004, Hubert co-authored an astonishing article jointly with William C. Dudley, then chief economist at Goldman Sachs. How capital markets enhance economic performance and facilitate job creation. And this was during 2004, 4 years before the economic crash. The capital markets have helped make the housing market less volatile. Credit crunches of the sort that periodically shut off the supply of funds to homebuyers are a thing of the past. Hubert refused to say whether he was paid to write the article. He also refused to provide me with his most recent government financial disclosure form, which we could not obtain otherwise because the White House had destroyed it. Hubert was paid $100,000 to testify for the criminal defense of two Bear Stearns hedge fund managers prosecuted in connection with the bubble, who were acquitted. Last year, Hubert became a senior economic advisor to Mitt Romney's presidential campaign. End quote. And this is Larry Summers. He was in both the Clinton and Obama administrations, a previous Harvard president, and worked with many large banks as their consultants. He was notoriously paid $135,000 by Goldman Sachs just for one speech. His regulations of the banks after the financial crisis during the Obama administration was minimal. And one can only imagine why the Obama and Clinton administration chose him to be to be part of their administration. And during the Obama administration, he was Treasury Secretary. And the second reason I think Baruch students need to watch the documentary is that it gives you a new perspective to be skeptical and critical of not just our political system, but all for profit institutions. For example, banks, elite colleges and universities, media, what are they trying to sell you? And what narrative do they want you to believe? This is a picture of Baruch students a couple of years ago protesting about the CUNY tuition hikes. And I truly believe that political activism, in the end of the day, can create change. So that is why my third reason for Baruch students to watch this documentary is that knowledge is power. Allowing yourself to watch this documentary might give you strong feelings and questions about the realities of our society. You may feel angry and upset that Wall Street and financial institutions have the power to unilaterally crash the global financial market. Or maybe you have many questions like, where was the government when all of this was happening? Shouldn't there be regulations on banks? And lastly, I think the goal of hoping that all of you and college students across the country watch the documentary is that I'm hoping it inspires or infuriates you into action. I hope this video makes you more engaged in our political system as it did for me when I watched it. Who we choose to represent us does make a difference. The more people we can put in Congress that represents the interests of the poor and the middle class, the more policies we will get that benefit us rather than the top 1% of the country. Now, I would like to ask the class if they would like to give me their email address so that I can share the link to Inside Job. And I will include information about other similar documentaries that deal with our current political system. Thank you.